Hello friends, tonight we are going to take a look at this American classic, the Ruger GP100 357 Magnum revolver. The Ruger GP100 is a popular and well-liked revolver, but among my generation, they're a bit like albums by the band Taking Back Sunday. The numbers show that people have them and that they like them, but they don't discuss them publicly and you rarely see them. But the numbers show that they are out there. While folks I know under 35 generally ignore revolvers altogether, when they do decide to purchase a wheel gun, it is almost universally going to be a Smith & Wesson. But why not the Ruger? I'm a huge fan of all things Ruger, and I've wanted a 357 for some time, so it was only logical that I purchase a GP100. But first, some history. The GP100 was released in 1985 as a follow-up to the Security 6. The Security 6 is a sort of medium-sized frame, and they wear a little bit faster when fed nothing but full-pressure 357s. The GP100, like the Security 6, has an investment cast frame, making it cheaper to produce, but it also has no side plates to give it strength. I think Bill Ruger saw side plates as a point of weakness, and rightfully so, on designs by Smith & Wesson and Colt. The newer design was a little bit larger, and it can eat full-power 357s for life without issue. Ruger's been a pioneer of casting, and though I may fear cast parts from other manufacturers, Ruger makes them right. They really know their business, and I trust them there. The GP100 has a smaller grip frame, but that makes it so that you can attach grips of just about any size and shape you can imagine, as they aren't attaching through the side with those grip panels. You can see where it screws to the frame there on the bottom. It's a great idea, really genius, and it makes it so that you can find small grips, large grips, rubber grips, wood grips. All kinds of things are available for the GP100 to suit your specific needs. So that's really great, very smart. The Security 6 cylinder locking system was made a bit more robust here, even though the design is pretty much the same, and it's got the same transfer bar safety system there as the Security 6. And the transfer bar makes it so that you can't fire off a round unless you actually pulled the trigger. So the hammer is actually hitting that transfer bar, which is then hitting the firing pin into the round. So that's nice as well. Ruger revolvers are very, very safe. Also, this gun has been in production now for almost 35 years. And though that's not nearly as long as some other revolvers, I think that still makes it a modern American classic. Features. This GP100 is a TALO special edition with these contoured Hogue grips right from the factory, a 6-inch barrel, and this unfluted cylinder that you see here. Mine also has a green fiber optic front sight. Hopefully you can see that. And that is not stock. That was, even for this special edition, that was added later. And the rear sight is the adjustable Ruger revolver sight that's adjustable for windage and elevation. I really like that rear sight. The unfluted cylinder is aesthetically pleasing, but doesn't seem to have any greater purpose. You can see that on both sides. It looks very nice. It's very attractive. And the stainless steel has a beautiful brushed finish. It's just lovely to look upon. GP100s are usually found with the fluted cylinder, so that's a dead giveaway that you're looking at one that's something a little bit different if you don't see that fluting. Like we discussed a moment ago, the GP100 has a less expensive cast frame, but the revolver is so beefy that you can shoot just about as much full-power 357 as you can be bothered with through this gun, and it'll just laugh about it. It really doesn't care. It's very, very strong. Most parts are overbuilt, and this gun is absolutely rock solid. The lack of a side plate is said to lend the gun's strength, like we said, and it undoubtedly does, but this gun's reputation for indestructibility is the sum of several design changes, like the robustness of the cylinder lock, just the general beefiness of the frame. All of those things make for a really, really strong, but also very heavy revolver. So which guns compete with the GP100? Well, if you're looking at a GP100 with a longer barrel like this one, you're probably also considering a Smith & Wesson 686 or the 686 Plus and maybe one of the custom shop competition models. Those are all outstanding guns, truly quality products. It used to be that the Rugers were considered to be stronger than the Smith 357s, but the new 686s are very, very strong. Whether you buy a Smith or the Ruger, you're getting a gun that will last, so have faith there. It'll really come down to price and feel, or if you're looking at the 686 Plus, it'll come down to that extra round. The Ruger is cheaper than the Smiths, not by a ton, but it's certainly enough to matter. And also the Smiths have a generally smoother double action pull and a crisper single action pull, but I've found the single action pull to be a bit too light for anything other than target shooting on some of the recent Smiths that I've handled. And some of the recent ones were just scary light, in my opinion. If you're buying a target pistol, you should just go ahead and buy the Smith. But the forgiving nature of the sloppier Ruger trigger feels a little bit better to me when I'm carrying this thing around in the woods. Now, the Smith & Wesson 686 Plus gives you that extra round. When you only have 6 rounds, that extra one makes quite a bit of difference, in my opinion. The Plus might be worth your consideration for that 1 round alone. Also, I have to note that Ruger is now making a 7-round GP100, and it is awesome. But I'm not talking about it too much because, I haven't spent a lot of time with them, and they seem to be fairly rare locally. Where I live, they sell out as soon as they come in, so I just am not seeing that many of them in the wild, and the ones that do just don't last long in the shop. But as they're out there longer, production will continue. You'll see more and more and more of those. In fact, I will probably buy a 7-rounder when I can find one, and then we'll talk about that. But to put all of this a bit more simply, to me, Smith & Wessons feel like finely tuned precision machines, whereas Rugers, they're more like hardy tools. Both are excellent pistols, and you'll probably want to have one of each. I know I certainly do. By the way, I call anything that goes in your hand a pistol. Even revolvers. If it goes in your hand, it's a pistol to me. But yeah, anyway. So perhaps you're also considering a Taurus and 357. Please don't. If you're short on cash, just buy a used Ruger or Smith, please. Please don't buy the Taurus. So why would you choose the GP100 over other Rugers? Well, Ruger's other popular 357 double-action, single-action revolver is the SP101, a more compact 5-shot revolver that's kind of more intended for carry, as the GP100 is huge and difficult to fit in your pants in such a way that it will be difficult to spot. If you plan to carry your shiny new Ruger, it would probably be best to purchase the SP101. To me, the SP101s feel a lot like the GP100, though the triggers are a little bit different. This is another case where you really just need to have one of each rather than one or the other. And these days, the Ruger makes the SP101 in a ton of different interesting and cool configurations, a lot like the GP100. And if you're looking for a 357 for target shooting, home defense, or hunting, but you have trouble with the size of the GP100, maybe one of the SP101s with a longer barrel and target sights, like the Match Champion, would feel nice to you. I don't know, probably worth a shot. I know a few people who much prefer the SP101 to the GP100, and it does weigh quite a bit less than this, even the ones with the longer barrels. But more than likely, if you try the SP101, you're probably going to end up with the SP101 and a GP100. That seems to be how Ruger revolvers are. So how does the GP100 feel and shoot? These guns are a complete pleasure to use. On this particular model, the 6-inch barrel makes for astonishingly little recoil with the heaviest of 357 loads, and we all know how difficult it can be to control powerful loads in the hand. The contoured grips help a great deal also. To do my best to describe it, it's not unlike when you shoot regular old .38 Special out of like a Colt Detective Special, something small. It's just not a big deal, and you're right back on target. Though you can tell that you definitely fired something. The heavy ejector shroud that's running the length of the barrel, it makes for little muzzle rise and very fast follow-up shots as well. In fact, I don't know if I've ever been able to shoot a revolver as quickly as I do this one. It's really nice. It just feels good. In my experience, the GP100s that have the big fluffy rubber grips, they're even easier to shoot well than the wood grips, though they don't look quite as snazzy. I've never shot a GP100 with a barrel shorter than 4 inches. That was the shortest one I've ever shot, but I bet it's still very, very manageable, as even the ones with like the 3-inch barrels are still really heavy guns. This gun has a very long sight radius, and much like its larger brother, my 7.5-inch Red Hawk, it's very easy to make hits at longer distances, and I like having the adjustable sights to help me get my sight picture and point of aim exactly the way that I like it. So that's really nice. The fiber optic, man, I didn't know if I would like that at first, but I have a feeling one of those is going to end up on my Red Hawk as well. I'm a big fan. I also love the push-button cylinder release on all the Rugers. I don't know if it's necessarily any faster than the other cylinder release methods available, but it just works really well for me. I like pressing the button. It's fun. It feels nice. Let's take a look at the trigger. Before we do, I suspect that these trigger springs are not original. I felt enough GP100 triggers to know that this one is a little too light to be stock. It has the same general feel as a stock trigger, so I don't think any other work has been done. It's just lighter. And I may go back to the original weights and install those. I don't know. We'll just see how it goes with this one. Though I bought this gun used. If this one is wearing like other GP100s that I've seen, it's probably got less than 200 rounds through it, and things are still kind of breaking in. So anyway, that trigger pull, the double action pull is long and pretty smooth. It's really very nice. I would say it's better than some of the rough Smith & Wesson triggers that I've felt on some of the newer guns, but it's far from the best of the Smiths. And it's not as nice as my old Colt either, but it works great all the same. On the continuum of revolver trigger greatness, I'd call it very good. Not bad. And it can be pulled out quickly and smoothly, which is very nice. Now let's see the single action pull. Like most Ruger triggers, the single action has just a little bit of creep before a very satisfying snap. Let's look at that again. I don't know if you can see that little bit of creep there at the beginning. Let me see if I can sort of accentuate it. Yeah, every time I try, it just it just goes off. Yeah, so once you get past that tiny bit of creep, the trigger feels amazing. It's outstanding. And when I say a little bit of creep, I mean a little bit. You see how it's barely perceptible to you through the camera, if at all, and barely perceptible to me, the shooter, as well. Ruger single action pulls really don't get the respect that they deserve. I find the feel to be both forgiving and pleasurable, which is what you want in a gun that you're going to be walking around in the woods with. So I don't mind the triggers on Rugers at all. In fact, I've kind of come to love them. So what would I change about this GP100? Well, the GP100 is a classic, and this particular one has all of the features that I was looking for. I searched quite a bit before finding exactly the right one in the shop. In fact, I think I looked for maybe 6 months. I don't know why. I didn't even know that this special edition was an option. So really, I wouldn't change anything. This one feels like it was almost made for me. And Ruger makes and has made so many different variations of the GP100 that there's most likely one out there that will fit you in much the same way. Final thoughts. These days, I almost always find myself buying Ruger revolvers. It's not exactly brand loyalty. I love Smith & Wesson, but there's something about the hardy utilitarian look and feel of the Rugers that appeals to me. I like knowing that this gun and my others are built for strength and built to withstand whatever crazy-ass buffalo bore ammo I can go bankrupt trying to shoot out of it. I'm sure the modern Smiths can do the same thing, so why do I keep buying the Rugers over and over? I just like them. I like the way I shoot them. I like the way they feel in my hand, and I like the way they wear in the woods. But really, between us, Smith, with all the modern cost-cutting measures, the two-piece barrels, that makes them feel like a classic brand in decline, selling overly expensive guns that just can't quite measure up to what they once made. On the other hand, Ruger has always sold their revolvers as what they are, cheaper yet robust guns for people who need revolvers to work and last. In fact, Ruger is famous for and very transparent about using cost-cutting manufacturing techniques, and that savings is passed along to their customers. So in that way, I feel strange giving Smith & Wesson $800 for a gun that is made in the same fashion as this Ruger, but with different advertising. And look, that's not a knock against Smith. I love them and will likely own many over the course of my life. But at this point, if there are two guns in a case, a 686 and a GP100, I just find myself reaching for the GP100. Ruger just, they kind of get me, you know. All right, back to the woods.